I must again talk about something that's very important, but sad at the same time. Okay, how shall I begin this? Well, black people pretty much in this city of Oakland are the laughingstock of everyone that isn't black. Well, there are some black people that think that they're in a position to laugh at black people, but they aren't. They're even worse. We have been traumatized into what I call a docile impasse. Yeah. Into a docile impasse. That's the best words I can come up with for right now. This is a part of my ministry, and the Lord is leading me to talk about some things. So, bear with me, please. We react to the actions of others that were caused by our initial action. I think that's the best way I can explain that for now. You see, the Black Revolution is being televised in front of your eyes right now. Look up the words revolution, and I think I've already have a series on that. I'll look it up, and if so, I'll air it. The Black Revolution is being televised right now in front of our eyes, but not the revolutionary. Okay? Most people don't even understand what that means. We'll get into that later. But what I want to talk about is that some of you know that I worked for Alameda County for approximately 25 years. Approximately 20 of those years I was in social services. As an eligibility worker, English speaking, as well as I became an eligibility worker for non-English speaking or limited English speaking that were refugees. I was a case manager in the refugee program. I volunteered for it, and fortunately I was chosen. But most of my life with Alameda County, I worked on special projects. There's not a special project that I volunteered for that I wasn't chosen. And the refugee is one of them. Now I'm going to go back and forth between the American program and the refugee program for you to understand what has happened. Because if you look around Oakland, it doesn't look too good for black people. And I want to give you an idea of why. Let's see, the best way, what I'm about to say, if any of elected officials tell you the way I'm getting ready to tell you, you'll be ready to sue and take more taxpayers' dollars for something that doesn't make any sense for you to sue for, because it's the truth. All you have to do is look at it yourself. Now, I'm going to go on the American side first. In case management, black folk did everything they possibly could do not to go get a job. And when it came where the laws changed, and that everything changed with the 1996 Responsibility Act, which says that you had better become self-sufficient, take care of your kids. And if you understood the process that they had gone through to be able to do this in 1996, and the laws and who voted on it, you better figure out who you're going to vote for. Because you voted for the people that made these decisions. I don't agree with all of them, but it's the law now. When welfare, most people call it, that's the money, the food stamps, the Medi-Cal, they even lumped in like GA, SSI, whatever. All of those governmental subsidies programs have been placed under block grant types. That means you're not entitled anymore. You need to look up entitlement and see the difference between block grant. Well, anyway, the federal government told the states that we're going to give you, whichever state it was, this amount of money, X amount of money, and you can spend it on these things. But you don't have to spend it on all of them. You can cut out some. Some states decided to cut out the money welfare part right off. They said they're going to get their people jobs, even if they're minimum wage jobs, and they'll still be eligible for food stamps and Medi-Cal. We're finna get them some jobs, get them, get some money in their pockets. Well, unfortunately, I agreed with the system that Alameda County decided to use in bringing welfare recipients into the program according to law. The federal government allowed, well, it gave the responsibility to the states, but the states passed it on down to the counties, and the state allowed the counties to have their own system that they were going to use to bring the people into the program for training, get a job. We got the child care, transportation, your books, supplies, tools, whatever you need to become self-sufficient. You were going to be given that. All you had to do was come into the program and do something, some training, on the job training or something. And go to school. You had an opportunity to go to school. All kinds of things that they have allowed you to do. And it was being paid for by taxpayers. Well, anyway, many people didn't respond to it on the welfare side. And of course, they developed a side for employment counselors and everyone, to whereas the people that were on welfare, it was mandatory to them for them to come to these programs, or else you were going to be sanctioned. Some of your money going to be taken, and if it's a husband and wife, both of those monies are going to be taken. We have a lot of homeless people out there because they failed to live up to their responsibility while they were receiving governmental assistance, which was taxpayers' dollars. So, we had to sanction a lot of people on the American side, as well as on the limited speaking and non-English side. They had a less amount of time because there was a clock ticking. So we took resources, governmental resources, away from a lot of people for a number of reasons, and it's usually because of their lack of doing what they were responsible to do, or the law changed, and that's just the way it is. And so my job as eligibility worker was to make sure that you were eligible to receive all the services, and if you did exactly what you were supposed to do was part of your responsibility, and that was to report every month if there were any changes in your life, because if you won the lottery or something, you're no longer eligible for these services. So they ask you those questions. Did you buy a car, house, whatever? Did anybody move in? Who has jobs? All of those things in order for you to maintain your eligibility to receive those services. Okay, I did my job well. I cut the whole case off. That means you're not getting any money for you and your kids because you neglected to do what you have to do. And if I send money out and there's evidence here you weren't eligible for it, then I won't have a job. I'm fined for it. They even write you up for stuff like that and have it all in your personnel file. Stuff like that. If it appears that you're just handing out money and you shouldn't, that means you don't know your job. Well, anyway, I was every bitch up under the sun, because I followed what my job was. That's right. Bitch, give me my food stamp. Bitch, you better send me my check. Well, see, they didn't know me and who I was. I came from them same welfare rolls, so I know what the deal is. Came from the streets, so I know your language. And in most cases, I responded, this bitch ain't gonna send you a check, food stamps, nothing until you get this bitch her information. That's it. Have a nice day. And hang up. Don't have time for it. Guess what? Even on the eligibility side, I had my most problems with my own people. Now let's go on the limited English and non-English side. Altogether a different ball game. They come from other countries and they're waiting and eager to learn exactly and do exactly what you tell them to do, and they don't argue about it. In most cases, when they don't speak that English at the level that, we're able to understand them, they will bring an interpreter, as well as Alameda County provided ways for us to contact interpreters if we needed them. But in most cases, we didn't, because some of those people have been here long enough for their children are now in elementary school and they speak English fluently. So a lot of times, the information I needed to know, I got it from the kids. A lot more than I can say for black kids. I wouldn't be able to talk to them in order for me to relate to their parents. It just didn't come out that way for black folks. I mean, slavery, of course, had something to do with it. But anyway, on the non-English speaking side or limited English speaking side, they would go out, bring you back exactly what you needed. Their forms are turned in timely, and what can I say? They wanted to continue to receive the money, food stamps, and and medical every month. We had so many black people that complained about those that come from other countries got $30 a month more initially for a few months, because it's clear that they're not used to being in this country, and they're going to make some mistakes that's going to be costly. $30 a month does not, per case now, does not equate what people from other countries did with their money, and they became more successful. If you look around Oakland right now, you can see who's homeless, jobless. It's right there in front of your face. If you see an Asian out there or a Mexican out there, their family is playing tough love because they take care of their own. They definitely take care of their own. And this is something we don't do. We were conditioned to hate self-kind. So it's difficult for us to do that, and we don't realize that that's what we're doing. But in the meantime, let me jump over to the employment training side. I worked both with English speaking and limited English speaking. 2 different programs, by the way, that I had to teach. But they were both the same. But one was geared toward those that didn't speak English, and we used simpler words, and we taught them new English words every day. Now those that on the English side, we had pretty much the same exercises that they had to do pertaining to going to get a job or going to training or whatever it is. Now when it came time for them after their trainings and all of that stuff, or they failed the training, so they immediately put you in to look for a job. Well, I was one of the employment counselors, and I was asked to be a trainer. I was one of the initial employment counselors that was hired by Alameda County. I was a part of the first 14 gang case coordinators. That's all they wanted in Alameda County, and they had hundreds of applications. I was among the first 14. We were then upgraded and reclassified to employment counselors based on the work we were doing, or that we must do in order for this to be successful. We had to, in other words, we had to do a lot of social work, and we weren't social workers per se, hired by Alameda County to be social workers. But you could transfer to the social work side, I'll say it that way. But this was the employment side. And let's go on the American side in training for a job. Everything that I trained people in was directly associated with them becoming self-sufficient, getting a job, as well as, if you wanted, the federal government said that you could start a business. And because I knew these regulations, I supported individuals that said they want to have a business, but I have to tell them what the regulations say about if you have a business. It's a little bit different than if we're going to get a job and all of those things. They didn't realize the severity of it, so many of them just decided to go look for a job. Well, anyway, they wanted to look for a job in the old system manner, and we were trying to teach them how to get jobs in the new millennium that's coming up. It's not the same thing. You can't do it the same way because now we have computers that are involved and they want you to send in your resume and mail your resume. I don't teach people to do that. I teach them to meet the people that make the decision in hiring and make the excellent first impression. Because when you give them that application, because you are going to apply, they'll be able to place your face on that application. And that's where a lot of people didn't understand. So we taught them to go out whenever you saw a help wanted sign, go in there and find out about that job. And apply for it if that's what you're interested in. If not, bring all of the information back to the group because somebody else in the group may want to go and apply for that job. Well, we had problems with black folks on that one too, more than others. In fact, we had one girl messed around and went to a Sobe family member's business. Page 2, he's no longer with us. He had the Oldies But Goodie record shop over there on, that was on Telegraph. Not too far from the employment training office where we do the employment training. The walking distance. Well, anyway, we teach them what they're supposed to do when they see the sign and what you're supposed to say. And this girl did totally the opposite. She first went in there and started looking at records. When we tell you to walk into the place, get your hand ready to shake somebody's hand, you want the manager or the owner, and introduce yourself. And let them know you are inquiring about the sign that they have in the window, help wanted. No, she went around looking at albums, asking the owner questions, and then she decides to talk about the sign, the job. She, unbeknownst to her, I had already began talking about the training program because I was on television Sobe for a number of years while I was still employed by Alameda County. Sobe family members heard exactly what I was saying and what they were supposed to do because for those that didn't come to my training class, they were able to get the same training off the television. And so page 2. He was one that had been listening to that, and that girl went into his business. And he got, if anybody know page 2, he's not going to bite his tongue on saying anything. The girl came back to the office crying. And so she told everybody what business she went to, and I said, okay. And she wasn't even one of my trainees. She was one of the other workers, other trainers on their caseload. But when she told me the business, I contacted page 2, and he told me exactly what happened, and I went back to her trainer so her trainer can do the investigation on it. Because, see, if you don't do it the way we tell you to do, we know you're not going to get a job. You out there meeting managers and carrying on. You got to be together. You can't walk into, like one of our people did, walked in. No, it wasn't one of our people. This is a person that came in while I was talking to the manager about the job opening. And I was an employment counselor, and I had people that are going to come there. Well, anyway, somebody came in to apply for that sign, that job that was outside. And she went and gave them an application and all of that stuff. Now, see, I didn't know she was the owner of the business when I first walked into the business. because I did the same thing that I teach my people, handshake, smile. I like to talk to the manager, and that's when I knew she was the manager, as well as the owner of the business. Well, anyway, when that guy came in there and got that application, she came back because we were sitting on the side talking. We were there right before the lunch hour would begin. This is what, because she's going to have a large crowd. She was a sandwich shop. They made, sandwiches and things, and you know what sandwich shop does. Well, anyway, she came back to the desk, to the table that I was sitting at, because I'm sitting out there like a customer, and she was too. He didn't know that she was the owner of the business as well. But anyway, when she came back to the table, she said, "I won't be hiring him." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Because his fingernails were dirty. I'd have to be concerned about how clean they are in making these sandwiches." And I told him, "What if he comes back with a suit and tie on and all of that stuff, fingernails clean?" She says, "No, he's already made the first impression." She don't want somebody that she has to keep telling them to wash your hands and all of that stuff. I understood it. I related that to my training class, as well as I related the story about the lady that went into Page 2's record shop, and they understood what I meant. Even the tattoo person, we told him, you don't know who like tattoos. People that got tattoos and green and purple hair, and they insist on keeping them, we tell them we'll go to Berkeley or San Francisco, because those businesses over there hire people with these colored hairs and piercings and tattoos. You're going to have to go where they hire people. Everybody don't hire people with tattoos. And I even had a girl that had dreadlocks, and she wanted to be a court reporter. At that time, there were no dreadlock wearing court reporters. So I told her to go around into the other counties as well. Find a court reporter that's have dreadlocks. I told her to go buy one of them wigs, slap them dreadlocks up there, and go on and get the job. After you've gotten a job, learn your position, and you know that you're doing good, come out with your dreads. After your first evaluation, if you got a very good evaluation, the only thing that's going to have changed at that time is you came out there with your dreads. They are not to discriminate. Even then, they weren't supposed to do that. But, of course, we have problems today, 2018. But anyway, it was harder for me to get black people to change what they wore for interviews. You don't wear no dress with a split all up the side and front hanging out in the back, unless you're going for a job that they want you to wear that type of attire. Other than that, you better look professional. Conservative type when you're going for interviews or meeting managers. Because that's what we taught you to do, is to meet the people in control. That's how I got the television show on Soul Beat. I walked up to the owner of the television studio and convinced him in a few minutes that having a computer show on Soul Beat was worth it, because most African Americans aren't into computers. In our households at that time, it was only like 10% that had anything associated with a computer. A real computer, not these toys and games and those things, Nintendos and all of that. Those are computers. Okay, but that's not the computer I'm talking about. You know what computer I'm talking about, the one that you can learn from, not just play games. Well, anyway, he told me to follow him to the office, and then he looked at his calendar, and he said, "You're on Thursday night." Threw me off. So I had to go and prepare for that, and I had a co-host with me. I'm not going to get deep into that, but anyway, that was meeting the manager. Okay, that's how I got that show. I personally walked up and talked to Mr. Chuck Johnson, shook his hand, everything. Did the sales pitch that I tell people to use when they're going to talk to managers about jobs. And I was on air until his death. From that part on, that was 97, and he died in 2004, I believe it was. I was on air consistently, never taken off. My days and times may have been changed, in which I could not say anything about because I couldn't afford that program. My show was $1,500 a month when it was 1 hour a week. He increased us to 2 hours a week, so that was a $3,000 a month show. I had to ask people, to contribute through the Soul Beat Appreciation Fund and then write Computers in You at the bottom. And that's how the show stayed on. The community paid for the show. Well, anyway, I met the manager and did what I was supposed to do, and staying on TV, in which we teach people this is what they're supposed to do to keep that job. And you don't leave that job until you have another job. And that's one of the major problems that we had, is them keeping the job, not getting them, because they knew that if they said just a few of the things that we taught them, they're going to interview better than the average. And if they meet managers, they're going to have a better time, getting a job faster. Now, see, lo and behold, I didn't realize that the reason why black folks weren't getting the jobs like the Mexicans, the white people, and the Asians. Now, this is those that were English speaking and have been here. I'm still talking on the English side. Well, anyway, black folk decided that they didn't want to work for fast food restaurants. We had a major problem in telling them that there are signs all over at the fast food restaurants that we saw on our way to work. And we sent them out there. You go and talk to those managers. Fill out those applications. And we want you to talk to the manager before you fill out the application. I taught my people so well that they were hired before they filled out an application. Okay? That's what I wanted to be done. And we gave them all kind of little tips and that owners of businesses like. Well, anyway, I just didn't understand why there were so many black people that kept saying, I'm not working for no McDonald's, I'm not working for no Church's Chicken, Jack in the Box, Kentucky, any of the fast food places. And because they didn't want to work for minimum wage. Now, I'm listening to people saying that they don't want to work for minimum wage and they've never had a job in their lives. That's what minimum wage means. And then the only way for you to go is up. Well, we had a lot of black folk that said they weren't going to work for those places. And they ended up going through the whole process, the employment process, until they ended up on a job, a full-time job, just for their welfare check. That's not even half of minimum wages. Yeah, they were very upset about that too. Now they have to work at this place and they're not really getting a check. They're getting a welfare check. Well, you were told that this was going to happen if you didn't get a job or try to do something to get a job like you're supposed to. Well, anyway, let's go on the limited English speaking side. They got the same training as the English speaking side, and we gave them the same pointers in meeting the managers and things like that. We just gave them easier words to remember, to say the same thing. Hard worker, will do good job, come to work every day. Something simple like that. And they went and got them McDonald's, Church's Chicken, Jack in the Box, all of them jobs. And then the next thing you hear is black folk getting upset because when they go to places to purchase things, the limited English speaking, you can't understand what they're saying. And they try hard to get you to understand. But see, we're angry because when we look around, there ain't a black face in there. You're going to get angry. You didn't want those jobs. And now you can't get them. You see, I taught some of those people as well to start businesses. So some of these businesses you see around here, I trained them. And yes, they're going to hire their family first. That's the way it goes. So what do? We want to cause problems because they are the ones that have the businesses and the jobs. It used to be 65% of the people in Oakland were hired by businesses in Oakland. But that's before they became family businesses. Not just corner store type businesses, family business. Big stores. Okay? They pooled their monies together to do all kinds of things. One Afghanistan family bought a hotel over in San Francisco so they all could move in. That's how other cultures or other races handle their problems that they have within their race. We don't do anything like that. We expect for someone outside of us to fix us, when a lot of the problems is because of us. Now, this was just one example that I gave pertaining to how black people react to change. I knew that there was going to be a change, so I introduced the change cycle. You now have to get a job. We have more homeless people out there than would be if they didn't mess up what they did when they received public assistance. You can't defraud the government, even housing. You won't even get Section 8 again or low housing again because you defrauded the system. You worked, didn't tell nobody, so therefore you got welfare money, food stamps, possibly even Medi-Cal, and any other programs that they have out there, the cheese, the housing. Once you commit the fraud of working and not reporting it, it affects all of those systems. So now you have people out there homeless who's homeless because of their own fault. It didn't have anything initially to do with drugs. It didn't have anything initially to do with you were evicted erroneously or any of those things, you caused your dilemma. And this is what you're going to have to face. Now we have a major problem, because even if they weren't on drugs when they became homeless, they got with the drug people and now they on drugs. This is what's happening. You're going to have to move out of Oakland if you don't have a job. Simple as that. They're not going to have the same number of slots available, housing or whatever, for those that are on welfare or whatever, receiving public assistance of some form. They're not going to have these programs anymore, or it's going to be less. We're now talking about affordable housing. I have people on welfare talking about, yeah, we need affordable housing. No, you need Section 8 and low housing. Affordable housing means you got a job. Now, granted, if the people that are building these big buildings are going to have affordable housing, if they want to receive other type governmental support, they may have a few slots there for Section 8 and low housing type people, where you only pay like 25% of the rent, and it's according to the amount of money you have coming in. People are not seeing that. The ones that are not seeing it are the ones that really need to be getting out there and trying to get the government to not cut social programs. Every time Republicans get in office, that's the first thing they cut: social programs. And so now you want to get upset because we have a president like Trump, and you're afraid that, he may even cut more, in which he may. But in the meantime, you should be doing something to become self-sufficient. Go back to school. Get them government loans and grants. Get better than a 2.0 grade point average. Because if you go below a C, you're going to be in the Dean's List probation. I've seen a lot of that. People that didn't want to go to adult basic education first, they said, okay, I want to go to Merritt College. And they found out they couldn't keep up. So they're getting D's and things like that. And they get letters saying you're on academic probation. And when you're on academic probation and you're receiving welfare and we paying your child care, transportation, your books and all of that, and you flunking, then you may not be doing the right thing. And sometimes they force you to leave there and do something else because you were on academic probation for too many semesters there. You're not doing something right. And we paying millions of dollars out in child care while you in classes. We didn't understand how the whole system was changing. We denied it initially, and I'll have to fault some of these non-profit corporations who somehow misled individuals. I don't know if it was intentional, to think that they would not be cut off services and that, they wouldn't take the money from you. And we had individuals that once they were sanctioned, is what it's called, they weren't able to pay their rent. Now, the first time you're sanctioned, see, you get too many chances here. The first time you sanction, you can change that right away. All you have to do is call your worker and say, I'm going to, come to the training program, do whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. But the second, third, and all those times, you can't get it changed right away. You're going to have to wait some months. And sometimes that's how individuals end up homeless, because they had to wait 3-6 months before they get that little money back. But that was enough money to cause them not to be able to pay their rent. The homeless program, when it was in operation, became a joke. And that's the reason why they don't have it any longer. The federal government told us that's what we had to do. We as workers tried to tell our superiors, all these people are going to do with that extra money is go to the dope house, and that's exactly what they did. So now we don't have that program anymore. So you can't call in and say, I'm calling in for my yearly homeless. You used to be able to get homeless once a year, apply for it. Well, once people out there that wanted to run the game, they would make themselves homeless every year. Like soon as they find a permanent place, they don't pay no rent. And they get evicted and they come back. And it drawn it out through a year's time where they'd be able to call and say, okay, I'm homeless again. And the federal government is supposed to keep giving them that homeless money plus their regular welfare check. And sometimes the homeless money was more than what they got on welfare. Oh yeah, they blew it. They blew it. People were calling in, I'm calling in for my yearly homeless. Well, they didn't read the notice when it turned to 2 years. So now we have someone who thought they was going to get a yearly homeless. They were going to be homeless for a whole nother year before they could apply for the program. Yeah, they out there homeless. If they don't have anybody to stay with that care for them, enough for them to stay there, and don't have really no money, some of y'all burnt bridges. Don't nobody want you at their house. You're homeless. You're not looking at your behavior, people. You got to look at your own behavior. Everybody. Although I'm concentrating on my people, because we're the ones that are in the worst problem right now because of our actions. And we don't understand that. So we're angry at everyone. We talk that way. And so since we're angry, it is not very difficult for somebody else to become angry and don't want to hear what you got to say, in particular police officers. And right now it's a mess. I said this before Soul Beat went off. I saw this coming. You pretty much have to say that authority has been given the okay to just shoot up black folk. That's what's in their heads. Somehow they're taught that. Probably even stem from home. And right now they're saying we don't have enough qualified people that live in Oakland to be police officers. I hope that's changed. But we're going to have to wake up, black people. We got to take care of our own. Quit asking people to help us and give us something. We've already been pacified in a number of ways, to whereas I guess we think everybody in the world owes us something, which they possibly do. But that if they don't believe it and they got everything, you better try to figure out how to get you something. Right now, black people all over this country are losing land. All over. Especially down south. We done left our people down south, and now they don't own their own land anymore. They may still be living there, but they don't own it. Landowners have the power. And right now, it's going to be very difficult for anybody of color to buy any land, especially black people. It's going to require us to unite and pool our sources together to take care of our own communities. See, in fact, we don't even have communities anymore in Oakland. That may be the same thing that's happening in the urban cities all over the country. I don't know. I didn't talk to people like on length on that. But in Oakland, we don't have any black communities anymore. Black neighborhoods. We don't have any of that. All we have are addresses. That's all we have. And we don't even own the land that we are living in as an address in most cases. We're going to have to look at it as, what are we possibly doing that's causing us to go back 50 years? Because we have lost 50 years over the last 20 years. We have been set back, and a lot of it is our fault. So we better look at it and start thinking about the things that we need to be doing. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the churches right now, because I do feel churches are supposed to be doing more than what they are doing right now. Bishop Jackson seems to be the only one that has some type plans that has put into motion, and some of it has already been complete. We're supposed to have a Black Wall Street coming up somewhere, and the only way that's going to happen is we have to buy the land. And right now, that doesn't look like what we're doing, at least at the level we should be doing it. So all I can say, people, is we have to start our own businesses again, because we don't have black businesses in Oakland either. They're all gone. When those businesses were sold or they lost, money or whatever, and they had to close down, when those buildings were opened up again for business, they didn't look like us. They didn't hire people that look like us. Not only are they leasing or renting sometimes these buildings, they are buying them. Go to Chinatown and go over here in the Fruitvale area where the Spanish-speaking live together. And look what they're doing. And then find out that they're also buying up land. Now, I suggest we buy some land too. I suggest we buy some land and start growing stuff. Fruits, vegetables, or whatever. Cotton. Because we're going to be picking somebody's cotton again. We're going right back around in that circle. We're going to be picking somebody's cotton again. And berries, cherries, or whatever. And we don't own the land. We have to pick them in order to make some money and to eat. If we don't change our ways right now, we have to change them. Okay? I talk a little bit about reparations sometimes, and yes, we are entitled to reparations, but we don't have anybody focusing on it. We have elections coming up. Black folk, you better get out there and register to vote and vote. If you don't, that's on you. Don't call your politicians, because they're able to look up to see from where you live whether anybody in that building is voting or registered to vote. And you want to call them and tell them something about what's going on? You didn't hire them. Now, those of us that do get out there and register to vote and vote, we hired all of these people all the way up to the President of the United States. We are the employer. Taxpayers are the employer, and we better start acting like it. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. Until we meet again, I love you.